Hello, welcome to the Minds Unltd Media channel. My name is Dr. J. Duncan.
And this is just Z, and we are giving you the Minds Unltd Podcast recap.
So, this week on the Minds Unltd Podcast, we covered the topic of self-love
versus selfish.
Indeed. So, like we do every single week in Minds Unltd fashion, the queen of definitions, Just Z, will hit us up with the definitions of self-love and selfish.
Okay, so self-love is an appreciation of one's own worth or virtue. Okay? And then selfish is lacking consideration for others, concerned chiefly with one's own personal profit or pleasure.
Indeed. As you check out the podcast episode, you notice that we kind of covered this from a standpoint of what is love? How does that kind of motivate us to do actions? What is intent? As we have had some time to digest this information, I kind of want to revisit that notion of like intent and the fact that we have choice in giving ourselves needed attention versus giving ourselves any type of attention in order to fulfill a job.
Yes, not in order to fulfill a need.
Ooh, yeah. Indeed.
So, some things have reason, some things have purpose. And that's what kind of makes a difference here between self-love and selfish, right?
Yeah.
And of course, with Valentine's Day right around the corner. A lot of people might be showing themselves some self-love and taking that opportunity to do so. But I think it's really important to determine where the line is for you and your relationship with yourself or others between selfish and self-love.
You know, as people prepare for holidays such as this, I tend to see people do one out of three things. They either celebrate their love for self, others, whatever it may be. They do something to increase the longevity of, so they invest in, or they follow protocols. Follow protocols is, here's the holiday, I'm supposed to do something here. Celebrating love is like, I'm so happy that you're here, let's do something that's fun. And then doing something with that intention of, you know what, this will help us build, this creates moments. Sometimes it can be a mixture of all three, but I think that in different ships, whether it's with self, others, or things of that nature, they kind of manifest in different ways.
Yeah, I mean, that's 100% true. Self-love in one ship might look selfish in another.
Ooh.
Or vice versa, right? You might be considering yourself selfish, but other people are like, no, you need this time or you need this opportunity, experience, day, whatever, to show yourself love.
Ooh-wee. I think this brings up a good point that you talked about in the podcast, and that was about how other people can deem your self-love or your attention to self as selfish or not selfish. And sometimes that is because you either was consistent or not consistent. Not you necessarily, but in general, as a people, we can be consistent with self-love, which allows people to get to know that pattern, or non-consistent where people look a little suspect in like, oh, is this really self-love or is it an excuse?
To be selfish. Yeah, consistency is key because people will judge you based off of your consistency and the impact your self-love or selfish time has on them, right? If, you routinely take mental breaks and routinely take time for yourself to show yourself love, whether that's in the form of saying no, whether that's in the form of turning your phone on Do Not Disturb, whether that's in the form of, getting your nails done every 2 weeks, whatever, then it's not so scarce. It's not so rare that people are like, whoa,
Yeah.
And then, or even if you're a person that shows yourself love often and you're not necessarily a quote unquote giver in that manner, then people come to expect that from you. But if you're giving of yourself all the time and, you know, putting yourself to the side for others' ships, then all of a sudden when you hit the brakes on that, it's abrupt and people are like, oh, that was a little selfish of you, right? That was that's out of your nature. You didn't think of me first. That's selfish, you know?
Yeah. You know, that highlights, if you will, the problem. Like you mentioned, that you put the brakes because it is your almost last-minute response.
Mm-hmm.
The question here is,
emergency brake, honey.
Why is self-love, why is love at the end of how we maintain ourselves?
And don't fool yourself into thinking that just because your relationship with yourself is okay, that means that you're still showing yourself love. It is an action, and checking in with yourself and all of that stuff is part of it. Just because I am perfectly okay with who I am as a person doesn't mean that I haven't been neglecting my responsibility to show myself that love.
Yeah, I think that if we define, or if you defined what love is for you, then you can do love self instead of just doing what self-love. Now, I'm going to break that down. The reason why I flipped it like that is because we tend to give ourselves self-love as our saving grace, right?
Yeah.
You said that in the podcast verbatim, I believe. That it usually is our rescue to burnout instead of it being our lifestyle. Mm-hmm. Now, if we put love first, we have to then define what is in front of us. What is love? Love can be many different things, and usually they're all action. They are nurturing, right? It is empowering. It is grace. It is forgiveness. It is strength, right? It's all these things. Now, imagine if you put that first. Graceful strength to self. All right, what allows me to be strong, not what saves me when I'm just weak. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. So there's a flip mode, because when we think of it as a worst case, we have to go through worse in order to get to love.
Correct. When it should have been there the whole way.
The whole way. But I think that, like you had mentioned, people outside of you defining what self-love is will have you operating in a way to where you're so tunnel vision, you don't really see what you need. Because in this system of giving too much to other people, I feel that there isn't room for love in a system where you need to produce.
That's true. And that's a whole nother issue, right? That's like systemic and institutional and all of those things, like, because we're so used to being on the go and we're looked at as this force that is against someone if we do something for us instead of them. We talked about space versus room, right? Making space for your love for yourself, making room, right, for making a room within your space for that love language that you prefer. And so sometimes it's painted as this, okay, yep, you gotta, after you get to your breaking point, you gotta take that time. And it's not necessarily like that. Self-love can look like every day stopping when you're sleepy. Like, whatever it is, going to bed. Like, that can be considered self-love because you know yourself enough to know that you won't be as productive, you'll be hard on yourself, whatever, that kind of thing. You know?
Absolutely, yeah. It's like prioritizing. We talked about this so many times, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and I think it keeps coming back up. It's because when you put priority on love in this instance first, you're not looking for gaps to fill. You are creating a system, and you're getting used to new habits and new patterns.
Let's jump over to selfish. Let's see. So the definition we used for selfish mentioned that word that you said, concerned chiefly with one's own personal profit or pleasure.
Yeah. And
so to me, that's like end goal talk, right? That is purpose talk. Because your pleasure is warranted. Like, you are entitled to your pleasure, but just know that sometimes when your pleasure is your main concern, that it can become selfish. Normally, we make room or space for self-love so that we can be recharged to normally pour into others. Pour into whether that's business, ships, something with others. And the selfish part comes when it's not for that reason at all. It's not for a reason for yourself other than yourself.
Yeah. Trust me on this. From my life experience, is that it is easier to be selfish than it is to self-love. I think that love, people downplay it, is that it's this soft thing. It is something hard to maintain and achieve because it takes dedication and work. While selfish allows you to take a shortcut sometimes. Oh, well, I don't have to focus on myself because I'm giving out to this. I don't have to worry about building me or the lack thereof in me because I'm super focused on someone else. But while that lack thing grows, I'm not actually benefiting that other person in the long run. So,
or I'm cutting somebody off.
Absolutely.
Or I'm, turning or deleting all social media. Or I'm, I feel like that's always someone's reason, right?
Don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted. You can fast from some of this stuff.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between a reason and an excuse. Don't be out here trying to trick people saying that you're taking self-love or really you just making excuses not to do something. There's a difference.
Yep. And I think that happens more often than we think. Just because, this generation has created a society where they're like, well, who are you to question someone's self-love and self-time? And yes, right? But also, people have taken that and using it as an excuse.
How about you guys help us out with that question? I pointed at her. Help us out with that question as far as what is selfish, or what are some things that you guys have deemed to be selfish versus showing self-love? We all have different definitions, and the community can help each other, each one teach one, of how to come to a more communal understanding of this thing called self-love.
Is it okay to call out someone's self-love as selfish? Is that an okay thing to do? Let us know in the comments below, okay?
So, as you see, that's a lot of information to chew on. And I know that there's a lot of love you got to give, and you got to try to figure that stuff out. So, before we get out of here, I want to show Just Z some love. I'm seeing this shirt that she got on here. It's kind of fly. I don't know if y'all can see it like I can see. You know how light be hitting and stuff like that. What did that say, Just Z?
It says Mind State, honey.
Mind State. It sounds familiar. I think we talked about that last time. Something about where it was going to be doing something new.
Yeah.
Is this the new?
This is new.
Does it come with the earrings though?
So separately. This is the Mind State apparel brand. I was trying to serve you Valentine's Day vibes. But
you doing it.
Last week was Black History Month vibes. So, available to purchase as part of our new brand initiative. Just growing this Mind State brand organically.
Absolutely.
Putting perspective in what we wear.
Absolutely. Living in perspective, possibilities, and overcoming barriers. Like I did that?
Yep.
That's all love. That's what's up. So as always, we got a lot of stuff going on. It seems like we just keep adding. This is because we've been doing work. Myself dealing with mental health, dealing with the episodes that I give you guys perspective at the end of the weekend. You got Queen Just Z over here putting it down.
With the It's Possible movement, blog posts, and,
keeping
site
you busy.
features.
If you just need something to do, fellas, if you need something to do, we got the Men's Book Club. Fellas and ladies, if you need something to do, there's a blog. It ain't just for the ladies. Show us some love.
Yeah.
Like, subscribe, comment below.
And if you want a Mind State apparel shirt, sweatshirt, hoodie, hit us up either on our social medias, which I'll put down here, or email us. Everything will be in the description below, okay?
Absolutely. Now, As always, the smallest change in perspective
can change your life.
Peace.
Love and chicken grease.
What? That's what's up. You shot it.
Shine